I want you to close your eyes for a second. Well, not if you're driving, but just picture the classic town square. What do you see?
I'm picturing a gazebo. Maybe a guy feeding pigeons. Something like that.
Okay. A gazebo, a bulletin board with a flyer for a lost cat, maybe a row of shops where the owner knows your name. It's nostalgic.
It is.
But here's the question we need to wrestle with today, and it's a tricky one. Is that version of the town square dying?
Yeah.
Or is it just migrating?
That is the big question. Because when you look at the sources we have today, the town square isn't gone, but it's getting split into these three very different fragments.
Arguments?
Yeah. We're seeing a messy divorce between where we vote, where we gather, and where we spend our money.
A messy divorce. Like that image. And that's exactly the mission for this deep dive. We're exploring how community and commerce are being reinvented right now in 2026. And I have to say, the source stack you've pulled together for this one is eclectic.
It's all over the map, literally and figuratively. We've got these heated threads from Reddit about local governance in Torrance, California.
Which reads like a political thriller, by the way.
It really does. Then we have transcripts from this huge restoration project in San Pedro. They're turning a 1920s department store into a futuristic media hub.
And just when we think we understand the physical world, we take this hard left turn into research from Lowe's Innovation Labs about spatial commerce.
Which basically suggests your living room is about to become the new showroom.
So whether you're a concerned citizen worried about your local library commission or a tech enthusiast interested in LiDAR scanning your kitchen, this all connects. It's all about where do we meet, where do we have a voice, and where do we buy our stuff.
Let's get into it.
We have to start with the friction. We're going to Torrance, California. And if we're talking about the town square in the traditional sense, City Hall things are getting incredibly tense.
Tense is putting it diplomatically. We're looking at a situation that highlights a classic, almost, timeless struggle in local governance. The sources here, they focus on a conflict over potentially dissolving or combining city commissions.
Now, I know there's a listener out there who hears city commissions and instinctively reaches for the skip button. But hold on. Because this isn't just about bureaucracy. This is about the operating system of your city. Why did this particular issue blow up so hard on Reddit?
It blew up because of the mechanism they used to introduce it. The source material highlights something called the consent calendar.
Okay, let's unpack that term. What is a consent calendar?
So in almost every city council meeting, there's a part of the agenda that's just for pure efficiency. It's where you bundle all the routine, non-controversial items.
Like approving minutes or buying paper clips?
Exactly. You group them all together and pass them with a single vote. No discussion, no debate.
It's the I agree to the terms and conditions checkbox of local government. You just click it and move on.
That's a perfect analogy. But in this case, in Torrance, the item that was slipped into that paperclip checkbox was a proposal to combine or dissolve major citizen bodies. I mean, we're talking about the Planning Commission, Historic Preservation, Library, Cultural Arts, Aging, Environmental Quality.
Whoa. That's a huge swath of civic life to just check a box on. You're talking about the people who decide what gets built, how history is preserved, how the library runs.
Exactly. And the reaction from the community, especially on those Reddit threads we looked at, was immediate suspicion. They didn't just see it as a procedural change. They felt it was an underhanded attempt to limit public comment.
One user explicitly called it a way to reduce taxpayer oversight. It sets up this real citizen versus council dynamic.
Yep.
You have residents feeling like their microphone is being cut off.
It does.
But let's play devil's advocate for a second. Is there a valid reason to cut these commissions? Is the council just trying to save time?
Well, the argument from the city side is usually streamlining. Commissions slow things down. They add layers of meetings, reports. But the counter argument, and what the residents are really fighting for, is something we call democratic friction.
Democratic friction? That sounds inefficient on purpose.
It is, and that's the whole point. Commissions are the buffer. They're the place where residents can get into the weeds on an issue, like a specific zoning law or a historical plaque, before it goes to the city council for a final vote.
So if you remove that layer, you remove the friction.
You get speed, sure, but you lose the filter. You lose the nuance.
And based on the sources, the residents don't trust the council to be that filter right now. The flavor of the governance seems to be part of the problem. It feels like there's a disconnect.
It's definitely spicy. There are these specific incidents fueling the fire. Take the renaming of Columbia Park. A council member apparently announced he was voting for the name change, regardless of what the Parks and Recreation Commission said.
Which just begs the question, If you're going to announce the verdict before the trial, why have the trial? If you ignore the commission, why have one?
Precisely. That just leads to apathy. Then there's the Armed Forces Day Parade. This is a massive tradition in Torrance, a huge community touchstone. The sources mention genuine shock that a council member suggested ending it as an annual tradition.
That hits people emotionally. It's not just policy, it's identity. But the one that really illustrates this disconnect for me, the one that feels the most Parks and Rec in the best possible way, is the Tarp ban.
Ah, the Tarp ban.
I knew you'd bring this one up.
I had to. It sounds funny, but when you read into it, it's actually really revealing about property rights.
It sounds trivial, but it's fundamental. So there was this dispute over banning tarps and pop-up canopies on private property. The Planning Commission, they wanted a nuanced version. They wanted to target problem properties, rundown setups that look like blight.
Reasonable. Nobody wants a junkyard next door.
Right. But the council pushed for a much stricter blanket ban. So you have the Planning Commission saying, hey, let people have their high-quality sail shades for a backyard barbecue. And the council saying, no, ban it all. Make it uniform.
And it raises that fundamental question of the town square. Is the goal of government to make the city neat and uniform, or to listen to the messy, diverse needs of the people actually living there?
And that struggle is clearly exhausting for the people involved. You can feel the fatigue in those Reddit threads. But while that fight for the Old Town Square is happening in Torrance, just a few miles away in San Pedro, something entirely different is happening. They aren't fighting over the government structures. They're literally reinventing the physical ones.
This brings us to the Donn Allan Experience. And this is such a hard pivot from the frustration of those Reddit threads. This is about restoration, but not in the way we usually think of it. This isn't just slapping a fresh coat of paint on a building.
No, this is deep. We're moving to West 6th Street in San Pedro. The setting is a 1922 J.C. Penney building. And the description in the sources, it's surprisingly poetic.
It is. The sources talk about the heavy, dusty silence inside the building before the project started. They describe the ghost of a bustle.
That phrase, ghost of a bustle, really stuck with me. It captures that feeling of a dead department store perfectly. People used to be there, buying clothes, talking, living, but now it's just dead air.
And the source material explicitly identifies the enemy here. The enemy is that silence. The transaction space, the place where commerce happens, it moved from Main Street to the internet, so these buildings became, as they call them, grand forgotten instruments.
Like pianos that no one plays anymore.
Exactly. So enter the visionaries. We have Edwin Duterte, who is described as the builder and strategist, and Jennifer Wolfe, described as the storyteller and healer.
Healer is a very specific, very unusual word choice for a commercial property developer. Usually it's flipper or investor.
It implies the building is sick, not just broken.
And looking at the project name, Donn Allan, it's deeply personal. It's a portmanteau of Jennifer's parents. Donna, her mother, who is a psychologist, they called her the Lantern.
And Allan, her father, a cardiologist, and VC the spine.
The lantern and the spine. I love how that translates to the building's function. The lantern is about visibility, letting people be seen. The spine is the infrastructure, the tech that holds it all up.
But my favorite part of the source material was the turning point, because apparently this renovation was an absolute disaster at first. This was not an HGTV montage. This was a nightmare.
Oh, total nightmare. They talk about 17 roof leaks, wiring from the 1950s that probably shouldn't have been touched. At one point, they were finding fire sprinklers that had been painted shut.
Which is a massive safety hazard.
And expensive. They hit a low point where they genuinely thought, we made a mistake, we're in over our heads. But then, and this is like a scene from a movie, their son Nathan is there.
This is the emotional anchor of the whole story.
Nathan pats the wall of this crumbling, dusty building and says, "It's okay, Mommy, I'm fixing it too."
And the source says that moment shifted the entire project. It went from construction to therapy for the building. They stopped trying to hide the scars, the exposed brick, the old beams, and started trying to heal the space around them.
So what does a healed JCPenney look like in 2026? It doesn't sell pants anymore.
No, it sells voice. The solution they built is called Voxel Micro Video Labs.
Let's unpack Voxel. We hear pixel all the time. What is a voxel?
Think of a pixel as a flat square on your screen. A voxel is a volumetric pixel. It's a cube. It has depth. It's the building block of 3D modeling, augmented reality, and virtual reality.
So by naming it Voxel, they're signaling that this place isn't just for YouTube today. It's for the holograms of tomorrow.
Correct. But physically, they turned the basement, the belly of the building, into 16 professional studios.
And I have to mention the charm here. These aren't named Studio A or Studio B. They're named after their nieces, nephews, and wait for it, 7 family cats.
It's a surprise for the family, but it also signals that this is personal. It's not some cold corporate facility, it's family.
But it is high-tech. They have this thing called the beacon.
Right, a 16 by 30-foot digital wall on the ground floor. So the content created in the basement gets blasted out to the street. It's designed to stop people in their tracks.
They talk about the philosophy here being opening doors. The idea is that they are addressing the lonely entrepreneur.
This is the key insight for me. We talk about the death of retail, but we rarely talk about the isolation of the digital economy. The lonely entrepreneur is sitting at home trying to run a business online, feeling invisible.
Zoom fatigue, no coworkers, bad lighting. It's isolating.
Exactly. The Donn Allan Experience gives them a roar. It gives them cinematic lighting, professional audio, a physical place to be seen. Instead of selling merchandise, they are selling the idea of San Pedro.
They are recoding the physical space to serve the digital economy. The building becomes the operating system for local creators.
And speaking of operating systems, they mention a specific visual style, zero friction. High key lighting, minimalist sets. You walk in, you record, you leave. No fuss.
Which is the perfect segue to our next source. Because if Voxel is about removing friction for the creator, Lowe's Innovation Labs is trying to remove friction for the homeowner.
This is segment 3, spatial commerce. And this connects the high-tech renovation of a city block to the high-tech renovation of your own kitchen.
The concept here is that the home itself is the new canvas for e-commerce.
It's a massive shift in how we buy things. Lowe's is using some wild tech. LiDAR, AI, the Apple Vision Pro.
Okay, pause on LiDAR. We see that acronym on iPhones now. What is it actually doing?
So LiDAR stands for light detection and ranging. It shoots out these invisible lasers that bounce off objects and return to the sensor. It measures the time it takes for them to come back.
And it does that millions of times a second.
Millions. And by doing that, it creates a perfect 3D mesh of your room. It's not just taking a photo. It understands the geometry of your kitchen.
Knows my counter is 36 inches high. It knows where the fridge is. It knows the exact volume of space I have available.
Precisely. And they have this thing called the infinite kitchen touch. It uses haptics and VR so you can literally feel a virtual kitchen.
What does that even mean?
Haptics simulate touch through vibration or resistance. So in theory, you could reach out in VR and feel the edge of a granite countertop before you even buy it.
That sounds like sci-fi. But the business application is removing buyer's remorse.
It's about removing friction. Just like Voxel removes the friction of setting up lights and cameras, spatial commerce removes the friction of will this fit or will this look good. You have a digital twin of your home in your pocket.
If we step back and connect this to the bigger picture, it's kind of mind-blowing. In San Pedro, the physical building is becoming a digital broadcaster. In the Lowe's example, the physical home is being digitized so you can manipulate it. The line between real and digital is, it's just gone.
It's completely blurred. The town square isn't a place anymore. It's a hybrid layer on top of our lives. We are living in the physical plus digital.
But, and here's the but, all this tech, all these digital twins and volumetric pixels, don't mean anything if the community isn't actually connected. If we are just lonely entrepreneurs in high-tech basements, have we really solved anything?
That is the danger. We could just be building higher resolution isolation tanks. If we have great studios and digital kitchens but no community voice, we've failed.
Which brings us to our final segment. We're going back to Torrance, but looking at a different side of the coin. We talked about the conflict in City Hall, the anger. Now let's talk about Leadership Torrance.
This is a program from the Torrance Area Chamber of Commerce. We're looking at the class of 2026.
The application call says the goal is to take citizens behind the scenes.
And I think that's the antidote to the frustration we saw on Reddit. The Reddit users felt locked out. They felt the door was slamming shut on the commissions. Leadership Torrance is literally about unlocking the doors.
They take participants to tour key organizations, meet decision makers, and see how the city actually runs. It's about creating a network of informed leaders who understand the heartbeat of the community.
And despite all the political fighting we mentioned earlier, the chamber sources show that life is continuing. There are wins happening that often get drowned out by the noise of the political arguments.
What kind of wins? Because if you only read Reddit, you'd think the sky was falling.
Infrastructure, for one. The sources mentioned support for the Metro CK line extension. That's huge for mobility connecting the South Bay to the rest of LA.
Trains are less sexy than Voxel labs, but probably more important for getting to work.
Debatable, but yes, essential. They also highlight local businesses like Verco Manufacturing getting recognized for making furniture for K-12 schools. Real, tangible manufacturing happening right in the city.
They also mentioned pay reforms.
Right, the Private Trainees General Act.
Simplify that for us. Why does the local Chamber of Commerce care about that?
Well, PayG allows employees to sue employers for labor code violations on behalf of the state. Small business owners often see it as a litigation nightmare death by 1,000 lawsuits. The chamber celebrating reforms there is a signal to business owners. We're watching your back. We are trying to keep the business environment healthy.
So if we synthesize this,
Right.
On one hand, you have the Reddit thread, which represents the struggle for involvement, the fear of being shut out.
Right.
On the other hand, you have leadership torrents, which is the opportunity for involvement.
And sitting right in the middle, you have places like the Donn Allan Experience in San Pedro, which provides the tools for involvement.
That's a fascinating way to look at it. You need the political will, you need the education, and you need the platform.
Exactly. The citizen at the council meeting complaining about the Tarp ban is trying to shape their physical environment. The creator at Voxel Labs is shaping the digital narrative of their city. They're both doing the same thing.
They're both trying to claim their space.
They are trying to say, I live here, this matters, my voice counts.
So let's recap this journey, because we've covered a lot of ground today.
We started with the fight to save city commissions in Torrance, the battle for the traditional local voice, and the importance of that democratic friction.
Then we went to the emotional resurrection of that JCPenney building. From heavy silence to the roar of media production.
We touched on how our own homes are being mapped by LiDAR for spatial commerce, turning our kitchens into data sets that we can edit like a Word document.
And finally, we saw how programs like Leadership Torrents are trying to bridge the gap between the angry citizen and the informed leader.
The takeaway for me is this. The physical world isn't dying. The town square isn't gone. It's just being recoded.
Recoded.
Yeah. Whether it's a beacon screen in San Pedro broadcasting local stories or a LiDAR scan of your living room, the future is about merging that digital roar with our physical presence. We are trying to find new ways to insert ourselves into the map.
And speaking of inserting yourself, there's one final detail from the Donn Allan story that I just have to share. It's too good to leave out. The wedding. The sources mention that Jennifer and Edwin, the founders, are actually getting married inside the Donn Allan building in summer 2026.
Jennifer called the building their wedding ring.
Which is just, wow. Talk about commitment to a project. You're not just building it, you're marrying in it.
It proves that these spaces, even the high-tech ones filled with voxels and fiber optics, are ultimately about human connection. It's about love, really. Love for a building, love for a community, love for each other.
So here is the provocative question I want to leave you with today. We've talked about operating systems for buildings, digital twins for homes, and streamlining city government.
Right.
If technology is the new operating system for our cities, who is writing the code?
That is the billion-dollar question.
Is it the lonely entrepreneur in the basement studio? Is it the large corporation scanning your kitchen? Or is it the citizen standing up at the council meeting demanding to keep the library commission?
I think the answer is, it's whoever shows up.
There it is, whoever shows up. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Keep digging, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.